Hello and welcome back to the Data Privacy Lawyer. My name is Funmi Owolabi and I'm the principal attorney at the firm. Today's review, we're going to be looking at some terms. So the value in looking at these terms are associated with different organizations being able to review privacy terms that are consistent during their contract negotiation phase. So I think it's valuable to look at some of these organizations from an artificial intelligence perspective because it's really important to understand that the use of artificial intelligence in almost every single case, I am yet to come across any type of tool that doesn't have some type of interaction with personal data, whether it's from the inputs or outputs, which we're going to review on these particular terms. But the value in looking at the terms of use is twofold. One, during the due diligence phase, if you're an organization and you want to liaise with a supplier to provide you some type of service, if they have the terms of use available on the website, you have the opportunity to review the terms and you can align internally what your privacy practices are against those that are used by a supplier. The second reason this is valuable is in the event that a supplier doesn't allow you the opportunity to redline their terms, you can decide whether the risks associated with engaging with a supplier are something that you can accept. Now, I just want to make mention of something that I've just realized. This particular cookie banner, which we can see here, only has one button, which is the accept button. So I'm not familiar with the cookies. This is not a cookie review. This is in terms of service review. But if you're interested in my breakdown of other different cookie consent processes or cookie banner, I have lots of reviews on this channel that are associated with cookies. And the reason I mention cookies here is because cookies are considered personal data. They do identify individuals, so it's something that businesses should be cognizant of. Now, so that we can get to the terms of use, I am going to click accept. Generally, when I do these reviews, I'm presented with the opportunity to reject the cookies and then also exercise my preferences. Generally, there's 3 buttons, but for this particular organization, there's only an accept button. So we're not going to deal too much on that. I have lots of reviews addressing how cookies can be reviewed by organizations. Let's look at the terms. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to scroll down. I wanted to see if there was a date in which these terms had been revised. Now, we do have provision 12, changes to the terms. We may revise and update these terms from time to time in our sole discretion. All changes are effective immediately when we post them. Your continued use of the services following the revised terms mean you accept and agree with the changes. Now, I want to talk about this sentence in particular. Now, let's always talk about things from a privacy perspective. Let's say, for instance, the platform that is provided by this organization related to, let's just say, grading and reporting. If the manner in which personal data is processed as it pertains to this platform, that will influence the terms that a customer is going to sign up for. Now, as an organization, if the manner in which you process personal data is changing, that needs to be reflected in the terms of service. So if you've watched any of the other reviews I've done on privacy notices or privacy statements, cookie notices, etc., you know that businesses are constantly changing. They change, month to month, year to year. They're always introducing a new platform, a new solution. They're expanding the geographies where they allow their products and services to be sold. Those influence the types of terms that you're asking your customer to sign up to. Now, artificial intelligence has been around for a long time, but it's become more and more prominent in 2025 and 2026. So the reason why I called out this particular sentence is because it's really important that in the event any of the solutions that a organization or customer is going to sign up for processes personal data in a manner that is different to the terms of use, those need to be addressed in your public-facing terms of use sentence, and also adding a date in which those are updated, because how am I as a consumer meant to know that these terms are applicable to the changes you've made to the platform in 2026 if the date the terms of use were updated are not reflected on this document? You're essentially asking customers to sign up to terms of use when there is no concession about whether or not the terms of use addressed here address how data and analytics platform is used in 2026. And that's the value of adding the date to your terms of use. So there's a lot of different nuances because I don't know how this business operates. I'm only going off of my understanding of privacy concepts generally, but I do think it's valuable to take a look at what organizations are offering their customers, because as part of any privacy program, there should always be vendor due diligence. If you're going to be liaising with a third party to provide you a service, you should look at your risk profile, you should look at your own privacy practices, and there should be a consensus on whether or not a supplier is, one, adhering to the data protection laws, and two, aligns with the privacy practices you essentially have. Because if you're going to be providing them your personal data in any capacity, you still have a responsibility as a controller. All right, I wanted to talk about this specifically to do with the artificial intelligence. Now, you might be wondering, why is a privacy lawyer looking at AI tool terms of use? I'll tell you the first reason. The first reason is because these particular terms, right, are in relation to the services. And let's look at the sentence. By using the services or by clicking to accept or agree to these terms, when this option is made available to you, you're accepting and agree to be bound by the terms, the privacy policy, right? And this is the privacy piece, and our terms of service. So what this organization is essentially saying is, when you agree to use any of their platforms or tools, you're agreeing to all of these. Now, why would a privacy lawyer need to look at the terms of use? Because the terms of use are not exclusive to be read on their own. This sentence, and you can see it's in bold, right? It incorporates the privacy policy that they've linked here. So your privacy counsel would need to not just review the policy, but also the terms of use and the terms and conditions. All of these documents need to align with what the data protection laws state. Because if there's something inconsistent with how you operate as a business with respect to your own privacy practices and with what you're agreeing to, you are increasing the level of risk associated with your personal data. Now, the other thing I want to mention when it comes to artificial intelligence is the discussion of controller and processor. When you are liaising with an organization and you're providing them your personal data, if they are providing you some type of service, generally there's something called a processor. They act on your instructions. You are still the controller if you are providing your information to an organization with the ability to use their artificial intelligence tools and functionalities. You're still responsible even if you liaise with a third party. So you can see that all of these documents need to be read in conjunction. The value in having a privacy lawyer review your terms of use with your suppliers is they can reconcile the provisions that are in the privacy policy, the terms of use, and the terms of conditions. All of these should be consistent. And not just should these be consistent, they should also adhere to your own privacy practices. So let's say, for example, an organization has a term in their own privacy program and it says, hey, we're not going to allow any of our third parties to process our personal data to improve their artificial intelligence. If that is a standard you have within your organization and those conflict with your supplier's terms of use, that's something that you should know, and it's something you should highlight whether you're going to get into business with a third party. Because if that's something that you've put in your own internal practices, and you've also, from a transparency perspective, placed that on your own website, if you allow that to happen through your third-party provider and you don't update your privacy notice, there may be other privacy repercussions on your organization based on the standards you've set, right? So I know that was a bit of a mouthful in terms of understanding, but that's why we're reviewing these terms of service. If you enjoyed this particular review, let me know. If you have comments or questions or you're looking for privacy counsel, take a look at the description below. The other thing that I want to talk about here is, we didn't really get into it, but one of the things I noted is there's not a lot of definitions. I think definitions are really valuable. I recently found out that a lot of organizations don't have an internal legal representative. So a lot of these terms get reviewed by individuals within an organization that are not lawyers. So I think it's really valuable for organizations, whether on the supplier side or on the customer side. If you're going to be distributing any terms, it's really important to put definitions on what things can constitute. Now it says here that they've defined AI and all outputs. Let's see if I can identify where that is. Okay, so they do have a definition. You may provide certain feedback to Otus or other input to the service, including both your direct input with as well as metadata captured via your use, the input. and in response receive certain language production or other output from the service based on the input. Okay, I want to talk a bit about these definitions. I had just mentioned that we need lots of definitions. If you've reviewed any of the other terms of use that I've provided on my YouTube channel, you'll see that I have identified with some of these organizations terms that I think are valuable in terms of being able to understand what it is you're signing up for. Again, I want to mention the fact that sometimes these agreements are made by personnel who are not legal personnel. So it's really important for organizations to have very clear definitions so that people that are not legal professionals can understand what it is they're signing up for. So there's two folds to what I've just said. One is the recognition that a lot of the times there aren't legal personnel reviewing this. And then if there is a legal personnel, the value in being able to have a privacy counsel review any documents associated with your contract negotiation phase so that there's a consistency in the privacy terms. So I really hope you enjoyed this review. If you have any comments or questions, leave a comment below and I'll see you in another review.